Chapter 1. A Description of Kali Yuga. My respectful obeisances unto Lord Achyuta, the unborn, omniscient, and unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the destroyer of all obstacles, the shelter of all living entities, and the original speaker of the Vedic literature. He is worshipped with great devotion by the demigods, headed by Indra, the foremost of sages, and by the rulers of the various planetary systems, for the purpose of attaining all kinds of perfection in life. Before reciting this Kalki Puran, which is the very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead, Narayana, unto Nara and Narayana Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Veda Vyas, the author. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead, having assumed the form of Kalki, who is the supersoul of all living entities, establish the eternal principles of religion. Having appeared in a family of Brahmins, he will annihilate the sinful kings of Kali Yuga by the fire of the poison emanating from his ferocious serpent-like hands, while riding on the back of an excellent horse of the Sindh province. In this way, he will protect, pious, and re-establish Satya Yuga. After Sri Suta Goswami had offered his obeisances to the Supreme Lord in this manner, the sages, headed by Sanuka Rishi, said, O Suta Goswami, O son of Roma Harshana, O knower of religious principles, O seer of past, present, and future, O learned authority of the Puranas, please continue narrating to us the pastimes of the Supreme Lord. Who is Kali? Where was he born? How did he become the master of the world? How does he destroy the observance of eternal religious principles? After hearing these words of the great sages, Suta Goswami became so ecstatic that the hairs of his body stood on end. He then absorbed his mind in remembrance of Lord Hari and continued to speak to the sages. Suta Goswami said, Please listen attentively as I describe the wonderful pastimes of the Lord that will be revealed at a future time. These transcendental pastimes were previously glorified by Lord Brahma, who was born from the universal lotus flower when he was requested to speak by the great sage Narada. Thereafter, Narada repeated what he had heard to the unlimitedly powerful Srila Veda Vyas, who in turn narrated these topics to his exalted son Brahmarat. Brahmarat then described these topics of Bhagavad Dharma to Abhimanyu's son, who was known as Vishnurat, as he was seated in the royal assembly. After hearing for 1 week without interruption, the saintly king relinquished his material body and departed from this world. Although the discussion of the glories of the Lord had not ended. After hearing for 1 week without interruption, the saintly king relinquished his material body and departed from this world. Although the discussion of the glories of the Lord had not ended. After the passing away of Abhimanyu's son, great sages headed by Markandeya continued to inquire from Sukadev Goswami in that sacred ashram. I was present at that time, and so I heard everything from Sukadev Goswami. By his order, I will now narrate to you these most auspicious pastimes of the Supreme Lord that will take place in the future. O greatly fortunate sages, please listen attentively as I describe to you how Kali appeared in this world after Lord Krishna had returned to his own abode. After the annihilation, The secondary creator of the universe, Lord Brahma, the grandfather of everyone, who was born on the universal lotus flower, created sin personified, having a black complexion from his back. The wife of Adharma, irreligion, was named Mithya, or falsehood. She was very beautiful and had eyes like those of a cat. They had a son named Damba, or pride, who was also very angry and energetic. Damba had a sister named Maya, and within her womb he begot a son named Lobha, or greed, and a daughter named Nikriti, cunning. Lobha begot a son named Krodh, or anger, in the womb of Nikriti. Himsa, or envy, was Krodh's sister. From the womb of Himsa, Krodh begot a son named Kali. Kali is always seen to be holding his genitals in his left hand. His complexion is very black, like black ointment that has been mixed with oil. Kali's abdomen is like that of a crow. His face is frightening to behold, and his tongue is red and appears to be full of greed. His appearance is very fearful, and a bad smell emanates from his body. Kali is very fond of playing chess, drinking wine, and enjoying the companies of prostitutes. He also associates with many gold merchants. Kali's sister was Durukti, or harsh speech. From Durukti's womb, Kali begot a son named Bhaya, or fear, and a daughter named Mrityu, or death. Bhaya begot a son named Niraya, or hell, from the womb of Mrityu, and Naraya begot 10,000 sons in the womb of sister, Yatna, or excessive pain. Thus, I have described the destructive progeny of Kalki, who were all blasphemers of genuine religious principles. All these relatives of Kali were the destroyers of sacrifice, study of the Vedas, and charity, because they transgressed all the Vedic principles of religion. They were reservoirs of mental distress, disease, old age, destruction of religious principles, sorrow, lamentation, and fear. These descendants of Kali are found wandering everywhere throughout the kingdom of Kali, destroying the people of the world. They are misguided by the influence of time, very restless by nature, full of lusty desires, extremely sinful, very proud, and violent even to their own father and mother. Those who are known as twice born among them are devoid of all good behavior, without any observance of proper etiquette, and always engaged in the service of Sudras. These fallen souls are very fond of dry arguments, and they use religion as a means of livelihood. They teach Vedic knowledge as a profession, and are fallen from the execution of their vows, sell wine and other abominable things including meat. They are cruel by nature and very fond of gratifying their bellies and genitals. For this reason, they lust after the wives of others, and are always seen to be intoxicated. They were not born from a father and mother who were properly married, and they are short in stature, and always engaged in sinful acts such as cheating and others. They generally reside in a sacred place, live only for 16 years, associate with wretched people, and only consider our brother-in-law to be a friend and a relative. The people of Kali Yuga are accustomed to quarreling and fighting amongst themselves. They go to great lengths to groom their hair, wear the best of clothes, and decorate themselves with costly ornaments. In Kali Yuga, a person with a lot of money will naturally be respected as a great soul. If a twice-born person earns his livelihood by lending money on interest, he will be considered a pillar of society. The sannyasis of Kali Yuga will be attached to home and property. The householders will become devoid of all power of discrimination. In Kali Yuga, people will blaspheme a spiritual master or other elderly persons without hesitation. Indeed, people in general will simply become hypocrites, liars, and cheaters. In Kali Yuga, Sudras will accept charity from others or else plunder others' wealth without discrimination. Mutual agreement will become the sole criteria for solemnizing the marriage of a boy and a girl. Forgiveness will be granted only when a person is unable to harm the offended party. In a society of might makes right, people will easily become annoyed with those in a weaker position. The earth will restrict the production of food grains. The currents of rivers will flow very rapidly, and even married women will behave little better than prostitutes, because they have practically no attachment for their husbands. Those who are twice-born Brahmins will be dependent on others, so much so that they will not hesitate to engage as priests for Sudras. Women will become promiscuous, so that they will be easily abandoned by their husbands. Clouds will shower rain very irregularly, and the land will not yield sufficient crops. Kings will whimsically torture and kill their subjects and burden them with excessive taxes. Such unfortunate subjects will finally take their family and belongings and take shelter of mountains and dense forests. The people of Kali Yuga will sustain their lives by eating flesh, honey, fruit, and roots without discrimination. Almost everyone will take pleasure in blaspheming the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna. These are some of the symptoms that will manifest at the beginning of Kali Yuga. In the second quarter of Kali Yuga, people will no longer chant the holy names of Shri Krishna. In the third quarter of Kali Yuga, there will be an upsurge of unwanted population. And in the final quarter of Kali Yuga, there will be only one class of human being, because God consciousness will have been long forgotten. When the study of the Vedas, performance of sacrifice, chanting of mantras, and other religious practices thus disappear from this world during Kali Yuga, the demigods, being afflicted due to not receiving their share of sacrificial offerings, will take shelter of Lord Brahma, who was born from the universal lotus flower. Keeping Mother Earth, who had become emaciated due to the great distress, all of the demigods went to the abode of Lord Brahma. There, they experienced that the entire atmosphere was supercharged with the sounds of the chanting of Vedic mantras, and everywhere there was smoke pouring from the sacrificial fires. Lord Brahma, the leader of all the sages, was sitting upon his throne, conducting a fire sacrifice on an altar made of gold. Here and there were many gardens and orchards full of flowers, fruits, and wood for performing fire sacrifices. Swans, cranes, and other aquatic birds made wonderful sounds, as if they were greeting their guests with joy. The swans, cranes, and other aquatic birds were surrounded by intoxicated bumblebees hovering around innumerable creepers and flowers. Thus, all the demigods, headed by Indra, arrived in the abode of Lord Brahma in a distressed state of mind. By the order of Prajapati, they entered the assembly hall of Lord Brahma so that they could disclose to him their cause of grief. The demigods first offered their respectful obeisances to Lord Brahma, whose lotus feet were being served by perfected beings such as Sanaka, Sanandana, and Sanatana, as he sat in meditation. Lord Brahma is the secondary creator of all the three worlds, who acts under the direction of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Thus ends the translation of the first chapter of Sri Kalki Puran.